Holy shit. Guys, I don't even know where to start. I mean, what the fuck did we witness on Monday? I don't even know what that was. I mean, the title of this show was Time for a Change. Now, I think we all knew going in that this was either going to be a change for the better or a change for the worse. And the only way I can think to describe this is that it was kind of both. And on a night when they were going head to head with Raw and needed to showcase the very best of TNA, they decided to showcase the very best and the very worst of TNA at the same time. Now take the opening match, for example. You decide to have a Steel Asylum match to give the new fans who might be tuning in, that you might be siphoning off from Raw, you decide to give them like a taste of the X Division. You know, it's a good idea in theory, but when the match only goes for about 4 minutes and ends in a DQ, that's a problem. I would very much like to know what Hogan was thinking in the creative meeting when he okayed a 4-minute cage match that ends in a DQ. Then Homicide tries to escape through the top of the cage and he couldn't do it. Welcome to live television, TNA. And speaking of what Hogan was thinking, let's talk about that for a minute. I don't know what's going through his mind. I don't know what kind of whacked out storyline they're doing here, but I am just baffled by this whole thing. I mean, Hogan said he wanted TNA to become more like MMA, and then we get WCW with an NWO reunion and Sting watching in the rafters. I mean, Hogan says that it's time for the young guys to take their place, and he's going to make sure that the young guys get pushed to the next level, and then the Nasty Boys show up. 2 fat has-beens who haven't been relevant in over a decade. Hogan says that if you can't talk and you can't work, then you're gone. And then Orlando Jordan shows up. A guy who can't work and sure as hell can't talk. On the one hand, we get Jeff Hardy, Ric Flair, Shannon Moore. On the other hand, we get Orlando Jordan, Scott Hall, and the Nasty Boys? I mean, what the hell are we supposed to take from this? I don't have a damn clue. And I think part of that was because these people kept showing up, and all this crazy stuff just kept happening at such a rapid-fire pace that you never had a chance to digest any of it. It was like the show starts, and then all of a sudden it's Steel Asylum match. Next segment, Jeff Hardy shows up. Next segment, new knockout champion. Next segment, oh my god, it's Ric Flair. Next segment, NWO reunion. Next segment, hey look, it's Val Venus. Next segment, slow the fuck down! None of this stuff is going to mean anything if you don't give the fans time to absorb it. The pacing, formatting, time management was just completely all over the place. Instead of debuting 20 people all at once, why not try debuting 1 or 2 people and then tell the fans what that means? Oh, and by the way, when I say 1 or 2 people, I mean Jeff Hardy. Somehow, some way, TNA signed this guy who was the most sought-after free agent in the business. A man who, just a few months ago, was the WWE champion, more over than God, and the hottest star in the entire industry. And now, the fact that they actually got him somehow is unbelievable in itself. But what did they do with him? Now, simple logic dictates that they would want to capitalize on his star power. Pimp him all over the show. Put him in every fucking segment. Throw him into the main events immediately. Because I got news for you, TNA. If Jeff Hardy is not feuding for the world title within a month, then you're flushing a fucking gold mine down the toilet. Because AJ versus Jeff Hardy would get you more pay-per-view buys than AJ versus Kurt Angle at this point. I'm saying that, and I'm not even a fan of the guy. But instead of all that, Jeff Hardy shows up. He hits Homicide with a chair. He jaw-jacks with Shannon Moore. He paints a picture, and then he leaves. Is it just me, or is that really fucking lame? In the span of one show, Jeff Hardy went from here to here. I don't care if he only signed a short-term deal. This guy was one of the biggest stars in the WWE just a few months ago, and in one night, TNA turned him into just another guy on the roster. How the hell does that happen? They should have built the entire show around the arrival of Jeff Hardy and ended it with him challenging AJ to a title match at Genesis. And instead, he's either going to feud with Homicide or be in a tag team with Shannon Moore. If you want to put him in the X division, why not have him feud with Amazing Red and give the X title some legitimacy because a guy like Jeff Hardy wants it? Now, if TNA want to kind of downplay Jeff until the whole drug trial gets sorted out, that's understandable. But if this is all they're going to do with him, if TNA doesn't see what's wrong with this picture, then I am deeply worried and concerned. Another thing that concerns me is the matches that we had on this show. If you really wanted to go head-to-head with Raw, you needed to put on matches in the ring that showcased what TNA is all about. And in the entire 3 hours, you only had 2 matches that did that. You had an excellent knockout tag team match and a fantastic 20-plus minute main event with AJ Styles versus Kurt Angle, which really made me wonder why the hell anyone is going to order Genesis now, because you just gave away the main event for free. But what other matches did you have on this show? You had a 4-minute cage match that went to a DQ that got bullshit chants from the crowd. Samoa Joe versus Abyss that went less than 5 minutes. The Pope versus Desmond Wolfe that went less than 3 minutes. And Tara versus ODB that went about 2 minutes. And that's some other stuff I'm scratching my head over. I mean, I love that the Pope is getting a push. But how the hell does Desmond Wolfe go from headlining pay-per-views against Kurt Angle to jobbing to a mid-carder in 2 minutes and change? Why did you go through all the trouble on the New Year's Knockout Eve show of building up ODB versus Tara if you were just going to switch the belt back to ODB in 2 minutes when her title reign went absolutely nowhere to begin with, and when Tara just won the goddamn thing 2 weeks ago? I am just baffled. I mean, it's like for everything that TNA got right, they did something else that just bent my mind into a pretzel. Like Ric Flair. Okay, I didn't want Ric Flair to come to TNA because I was worried about what they were going to do with him. I was afraid that he was going to continue to tarnish his legacy by getting back in the ring again. I do not want to see Ric Flair wrestling anymore, especially since he probably won't contribute enough to justify what they're paying him. But if they're going to have him do something to give a rub to AJ Styles, then I like the sound of that. But then you have the Nasty Boys, these fat idiots who are probably just going to feud with Team 3D now. And does anyone not named Hulk Hogan actually want to see that? Does Hogan have that much influence over Dixie Carter that he can make her think that using the Nasty Boys is a good idea? I thought there was no way in hell Dixie would be stupid enough to let Hogan bring those guys in. Apparently I was wrong. I don't know what to say. I mean, I know you guys were probably expecting me to go on some kind of epic rant, but this whole show was so batshit crazy, I'm having trouble forming coherent thoughts here. Now, I read the spoilers for next week. They look better, more organized than this was at least, but I don't know what they're doing for Genesis. I don't know what's going to happen after Genesis, but I'll tell you this much. I sure as hell am not going to pay 1 cent of my money to order a pay-per-view that has the Nasty Boys on it. I mean, I kind of doubt that most of these new people that showed up are going to last very long. I mean, some of them might have just been there for shock value. I cannot see them signing Orlando Jordan ever. And the way I heard it, Hall and Waltman are only there temporarily, and as long as they behave themselves, I think. And the way I heard it, I mean, a lot of people don't expect them to be there after Genesis or something. So, a few months from now, I expect some, if not most of these idiots to be gone. But I really don't know at this point. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, this show scared me. I'm worried that this is the start of TNA turning into something completely unrecognizable to me. And I just don't know. I don't know what to think right now. I don't know.